Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is MaryAnngeline and this is a yoga butt rehab class that was a request from one of my wonderful students, Kareen, and I really hope I'm pronouncing your name right. And it's great because even with all my requests, I just see the little profile name, so I'm hoping that is how you say your name. So thank you for this request. This is a practice where I'll be talking a little bit more than normal to give you a little bit of an idea of what is yogi butt and how to rehab it, and also my own experience. So of course, if you have any really bad pain, I am not a doctor, go see your doctor. Take every exercise that we do, every movement that we do, apply it and see how it feels for you. And if it fits, great. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. With yoga, with movement, it's all based on experience. And that's why there's so many different modalities that are all really wonderful. Some might conflict each other, some might overlap, but ultimately, for me, it's finding what works best for you. Our bodies are all different. An exercise that might feel good for me and rehabbing my yoga butt may not work for you, or it might work perfectly for you. But that's where we all tap into our own body intellect and take what we need. Okay, so with this can happen to the most new mover to the most advanced mover. And the way I've experienced yogi butt before is a little pain right underneath my sits bone. So your sits bones are the bony landmarks in your bottom, and your hamstrings connect to that area. And there's tendons there too and all the good stuff. But you'll feel a pain there. And sometimes that pain can also go down to the hamstring. So I'm going to go through some things that have worked for me specifically, and hopefully they'll work for you too. With this, some factors that can cause this feeling, this pain, would be overusing the hamstrings, overstretching the hamstrings without other muscular support. So especially if you have a tendency to be more flexible, it's easy to drop into our flexibility. And that's, I feel like, a phrase you'll hear a lot is dropping into your flexibility. That could mean dropping into your hyperextension, which I'll show you that because that's something that I have. It could be not engaging the muscles properly in certain poses, definitely working more towards dynamic stretches. I feel really helps this a lot, keeps everything stable, but also gets you into whatever pose you're trying to get. And just creating awareness around it. If there's something that doesn't feel right, even just not doing that pose at all for a little while is a great strategy to feeling some relief. But when you come back to that pose, being very understanding as to how to come into it so you don't continue to aggravate the area. Okay, so some poses that might cause this pain or you'll feel it the most are poses like half split, full split, pyramid pose, maybe even triangle, seated forward fold, standing forward fold. Anytime that you're creating length in the hamstring, even warrior 3 through that standing leg. So I like to do a lot of strengthening for the hamstrings on 2 feet, lying down, on our back, supine, and really focusing on the engagement of the legs. So that's where I'm going to start first. So if you come up to standing real quick, I'd like you to just have your feet flat in a neutral position, mountain pose. And I'm actually going to turn side so you can see my side body. Hyperextension, and there's various degrees, is this. So if you look at my body, you'll see my knees are behind my ankles a bit. Right now I'm dropping all my weight into my knees, which can be very uncomfortable. It then triggers sometimes the lift in the sacrum, heavy through the belly, and now we're just kind of here, not aligned, in a not supported position that will cause pain over time. So what we want to do right now, the weight for the most part's in the heels. I want to shift my weight into my toes so that it's even, because when you're way back into your heels, if you shift forward into your toes, you'll come to center. If you don't have the tendency to drop your weight into your heels, when you shift your toes, you'll be way too far forward in your toes. So just make sure you can find your neutral point. So that's really what we're aiming to do. So slight bend into the knees and then weight into the toes so you are neutral. Now, if you don't have hyperextension and you're nice and straight, find that stable, present, grounded position, neutral all the way around. And then engage your quads. Pull the quads up. You'll feel your hamstrings a bit too. Hug the glutes in. So now I'm completely active. And anytime you come into your mountain pose, whether you're hyperextended or not, find this position. Squeeze the inner thighs, outer hips, engage the quads, hamstrings. All of that is very active. That nice saying of hugging your muscles to your bones. And the more you're here, and I'm holding this now, the longer you're in it, the more you're gonna feel that heat turn on, and the more you're working, and we're not really doing anything, we're just standing. So mountain pose with this variation is a great foundational posture before you even move on. So we're gonna be here a little bit longer, really working, holding onto those muscles, feeling the weight even, not dropping back into the knees, engaging all parts of the lower body, even the belly. Pull it up, create space through the spine, and you should feel the feet really imprint. So if you moved your feet, if you were on stand and you move your feet, you'd have 2 full outlines of both feet. Hold it here for 3, for 2, and 1. Release it out. So dependent on the intensity of what you feel, what we're gonna do next, you might not wanna do. You can work that mountain again. But I want us to feel that same position, that same dynamic engagement as we come into our fold. So initially, we'll come into fold, let the head drop heavy. Then bend the knees slightly, engage the legs, pull the glutes in, pull the hamstrings in. You'll feel the back of the knees also tighten a bit. When you're here, it's a lot more secure than just straightening the legs, letting the torso drop, and letting all the muscles relax. Okay, now if you have the pain, don't do that because it'll probably hurt more. But again, re-engage, draw everything in. Pull everything in. Active through the hamstrings, active through the quadriceps, the outer hips. Everything is active. Head heavy. Slowly bend the knees now. Drop the booty down to the ground. And lie down onto your back. I love bridge pose for this specific sensation. Feet flat, knees bent, toes forward, knees up. Arms by your sides. Even here, hug those inner thighs. Hug the outer hips. Press down through your hands and your feet. Float the booty up. Drive the heels forward. You'll feel your hamstrings turn on even more. Hips go a little bit higher. Drive the knees forward, press down through the feet, hips a little bit higher. Hold it, hug the knees in. Really focus on not letting those knees splay at all. Hold it here. Breathe here. And very gently release that down. Soften the muscle. So we're going to take that 2 more times. It also depends on where you are in your movement practice, how much you move. Do you lift weights? Do you do cardio? Do you only do yoga? Do you dance? Do you do Tai Chi, right? All that plays a huge role. So if you are doing any other movement modalities, try to integrate these in those where you can and really notice all those movements that you're doing. Is there one that's triggering this more that you're not necessarily aware of? Or maybe you're fully aware of it, right? So there's lots of different variations, but it's important for you to focus on what movements you're doing, where it's being triggered, where you can ease off, where you can integrate this engagement, this more dynamic engagement and dynamic stretch. All right, here we go, my friends, again. So hug the inner thighs, hug the outer hips. Squeeze everything in towards the bones. Press down through your hands and your feet. Float your hips up. Drive your knees forward. Press down through the feet. Lift the hips a little bit higher. Knees forward, hips a little bit higher. Pause and hold. Everything hugs in. Everything is active. That's the other thing, is the inconsistency in what's engaged. If you let one little area of your body go, you're putting a lot more load and effort on the other parts of the body. So really try to keep it nice and even. Let's slowly lower the hips down. Pause for a moment. That's actually really important because in some postures, it might be full on quadricep, right? And then you're not thinking of anything else. Well, when you focus fully on just one area and the rest should be engaged in however amount it needs to be engaged, then that area is going to take on so much load that it can cause a lot of pain, a lot of injury. So you have to be very mindful of what is actually being activated, what's actually being released, what's being strengthened, stretched, and how can I make this nice kind of yin yang balanced position of the body. All right, let's do this one more time. Engage inner thighs, outer hips, hamstrings, belly. Press down, lift up. Drive the knees forward, hips go high. Feel everything hug in. Breathe, of course, use breath. And then slowly release it down. Straighten out the legs, take a moment in Shavasana. Now let's come on to our bellies. We're gonna sweep around and come onto the belly. And just work some hamstrings here. So hands underneath the forehead. Flex your right heel and squeeze the heel towards the booty. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. As you do, press your hip bones into the ground. And then start to float the knee off the mat a little bit. Press, press, press. Hold it here for 3, 2, and 1. Slowly release that down to the left side. Flex the left foot now. Squeeze the heel towards the booty and press that knee up. Hold it for 3, for 2, 1. Slowly release it down. Both legs at the same time now. Flex both feet. Squeeze the heels in. Press the hip bones down. Float the knees up for 3, 2, and 1. And slowly release. So you should definitely felt the hamstrings turn on completely there. And that, I'm just going through the exercise, right? But that you would repeat. Right side maybe 5 times, left side 5 times, maybe both together 5 times. But if both together is too much, you can always just work 1 and 1. So the biggest takeaway for me from working with Yoga Butt, if you have it, is noticing where you feel the pain, number 1. Is it just in standing forward fold? Is it just in half split, in warrior 3, in pyramid? Where do you feel it? Or if it's all around everywhere. What are you doing in your daily life that's triggering it? And it might not just be in your yoga practice, it might be in your everyday practice, i.e. maybe you're seated all day. And that seated in a chair can, make it more challenging because you're in that position for such a long time where you're lengthening this area without bearing weight, so it's bringing imbalance. If that's the case, maybe sometimes you stand up during your workday. And then can you integrate more of bent knees, but not just micro bend of the knees, but micro bend with an engagement so that you're fully engaging all other parts of the leg specifically to support that sensation. The depth of your bend is up to you. For me, like I demonstrated, I like it just a little bit and then really hugging everything in so it's very dynamic in my stretch. And doing that everywhere. So even if I'm in a pyramid pose, let's just say I'm coming into pyramid. So here, I'm hugging the muscles to the bones. I have a bend in my knee a little bit. I'm pulling everything in. As I come forward, maybe I round a little bit. Maybe I'm not fully extended back. That's another thing you can play with too. Maybe I don't go as far down, right? You don't have to bring your hand to the ground, but working the dynamic engagement of the muscles. And then doing exercises like bridge, lifts, very slow, very sustained, prone on the belly, hamstring curls, that would help too. So let me try to recap now. Anything else that I might have forgotten? I don't think so. Yeah, so trying to heal from this, taking it slow, being very mindful. And if there's any specific questions, because obviously this video is for everyone out there too. And if there's specific questions, feel free to put them in the comments below. If you want a dedicated class, maybe more of like a flow for yoga butt, then that could be something I can do if that's of interest to Corrine, especially you since you requested it, or anyone else. And yeah, so I hope this little kind of informational video, a little bit of exercises benefited you and will help you on your journey if you do have yoga butt. It can get better as long as you are proactive with healing it, taking rest for sure. Rest is so important. You know, maybe not doing the postures that trigger it, even though you might love them. And then really integrating that bent knee, but hugging everything. And so it's very dynamic. It's not just bending the legs. My friends, thank you so much. Comments, questions, put in the boxes below. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to maybe answer more specific questions that pertain to your practice. And yeah, we'll go from there. So I'll see you all next time.